Should not be. And it should not be hard to tell the truth. The truth is, Governor, right now the bullets are flying in one direction. This is not a both sides issue. Right now, there is a problem with violence on the left, and voters are noticing it and ditching Democrats.
I cannot be linked and affiliated with a party that has members in it that would do exactly what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Why I am no longer on the left, even as a lesbian. Being gay does not automatically mean that I have to share the same sickening, in my opinion, views as the left.
It's one thing to believe in something, it's another thing to tell somebody they're bad if they don't, especially if the view is wacky, crazy, and all the way out there.
Even Jamie Lee Curtis is over the insane reaction from the left after Charlie Kirk's death.
I disagreed with him on almost every point I ever heard him say. I still believe he's a father and a husband and a man of faith, and I hope whatever connection to God means that he felt it.
I want to welcome back in now former Chief of Staff for the House Judiciary Committee, Julian Epstein. Julian, I've always found you to be a very honest voice. As a perhaps former, perhaps still Democrat, you've been willing to call out the excesses, as you did just about 30 minutes ago here today on the Will Cain Show. I wish you weren't alone, because I think you've reached a moment of crisis. The Democrats have reached a moment of crisis in their unwillingness to look in the mirror and stop the insanity that has led to the events of the past week.
I agree, and I despair, Will, for the Democratic Party. I cut my teeth in the Democratic Party in the 1990s under Clinton, where the basic belief then was in building an upward mobility for the working class and the middle class. It was relatively conservative on social issues. And I think what you saw in the opening of this segment is that elements of the Democratic Party and the progressive left are moving increasingly towards a sort of a death cult. And they are engaged in cultish behavior. And I think there's sort of three things that are going on that are really different today from the Democratic Party of a generation ago. One is to compare your opponents to the world's worst actors, Hitler and Mussolini, by calling them fascists, which implies a violent response from people on the left. And the fact that Democratic leaders don't see this connection today is beyond me. The second thing that has happened, I think, with progressive orthodoxy and ideology is this notion of safetyism. That entire categories of conservative belief, whether it is on gender or whether it is on race or whether it is on immigration, those beliefs, those words are actually violence. And that's what the notion of safetyism means on the left. Well, if progressives consider those ideas to be violence, then the appropriate response from many progressives in their belief system is violence. And so there's a connection there. And I think the third thing that's happening, Will, and you and I have talked about this before, is a nihilism that is occurring on the left, a deep skepticism about borders, a deep skepticism about law enforcement, a deep skepticism about gender categories, a deep skepticism about free markets. And that deep skepticism, that nihilism of Western values, eventually leads at least elements of the progressive left to a place of despair. And when you get to a place of despair, you see the kinds of things that happened a week ago with the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. So I think it's not enough for Democratic leaders to say we condemn violence after the fact. That doesn't really cut it. What they have to do is they have to stop creating an environment that will lead extremist elements on the left to actually commit violence. And I think you are seeing disproportionate violence. This both sidesism stuff, I think, is nonsense. The evidence, I think, is clear in the last several years that the extremist violence is coming mostly from the left and is being radicalized not just by Democratic politicians calling the opposition Nazis, but by an entire ecosystem, an intellectual and ideological ecosystem that says, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to vilify you, I'm going to try to shut you down, and I'm going to use language that would justify a violent response. And I think that the fact that Democratic politicians have not grasped this either means that they are far too beholden to the activist progressive left, or they're just not getting it. But this sort of just denouncing violence after the fact doesn't cut it.